Hey everyone, while you watch me warm up with some jumps and throws here, I wanted to vlog about a new program that I'm starting called Boring But Big and Really Sore. It's a variation of a very common program that you see on fitness subs on Reddit and stuff like that, called Boring But Big. This variation has a few interesting wrinkles. It gets very hard very quickly. I will link the program in the description. It's a blog post by Jim Wendler. The basic idea is you do 3 heavy sets and then 5 sets of 10 of a lighter set of the same compound. But after the first 3 weeks, instead of a 5x10, you are now doing a 5x12. And then the 3 weeks after that, it turns into a 5x15. And then after that, it turns into a 5x20. Today would usually be my squat day, but I had to shift some things around in my schedule. So usually I do squat and then press and then deadlift and then bench. But I'm starting this week out with press and then deadlift, and then I'm going to have to finagle the other 2 days in. I'll figure it out. So today, like I said, I'm doing press. I start with the axle bar, which you'll see shortly, for my 3 main heavy sets. And then I'm doing the log for my 5x10. I am choosing to take my first rep of each of the implements from the ground, just so I stay in good practice, because that's how I will compete in strongman competitions 99% of the time. The implement will start from the ground and will have to end up above your head in any shape or form. So I do some strict pressing, but I also will do push presses and push jerks, whatever it takes. So this is my very first set. It is a pretty light weight for overhead pressing. It is 165 pounds. I decided to go ahead and strict press this one. And then in between each set, I'm doing 10 ab rollouts. The reason I'm doing this now is because abs are the first thing that I will remove from a program. So if I can just force them in early in the workout during my rest period, I'm much more likely to not skip them. I don't think that they are hard enough to interfere with my next set. And like I said, they're really important to do, and they're the first thing I skip. So this is a good strategy if you're finding yourself without enough time to do core or ab work. I'm jumping right back into the press, the 190. This time I'm using a little bit of leg drive. I'm still getting used to wearing Olympic lifters for presses. I'm liking it for the log more, but I am not caring too much for them with the axle. I feel pretty off balance. But if I ever want to get better with split jerks or push jerks, I do feel like the heels will be helpful. So I'm going to keep practicing with them for a while. I didn't like them for the log at one point as well, and now I do. So I think it just needs more practice and experience in them. So my last set, I'm trying to do push jerks here, but I'm really unbalanced right now, and they're not working out like they usually do. So they kind of turn into a push press instead of a push jerk. At this point, I'm actually really gassed. This is easy to press, but for some reason, I'm really out of breath, and these got harder and harder, not because of the lack of strength, but because of the lack of conditioning. I wanted to get at least 10, and I would normally with a weight like 215 pounds, but I called it quits on 8 reps because I was starting to get a little wild. Couldn't hold my brace properly. And finishing off with 10 more ab wheels. These were actually really hard at this point. The first 2 sets felt fine. The first set moved really well. But by the time I was doing this set, I was having a lot of trouble. I wanted to originally take this to 10 plus reps to failure, but 10 reps was difficult enough that I decided to stop at that point. All right, so I'm off to the 5x10 now. I switched over to the log just to get practice with both. The first set of these felt fine. They did get progressively harder. The log made it extra difficult to breathe, but that's good because I need to work on my conditioning. I need to work on being stable with the log while I'm fatigued. As some of you know, I broke my leg at regionals, dropping a log because of fatigue during an event, and I don't want to repeat that. I'm supersetting each set of 10 with 10 axle rows. These can be kept pretty light because the axle makes it harder to grip, and it's kind of more of a forearm work than it is a back work. But after 5 rounds of this, my back was also really feeling it. I was getting the log reps in any way possible. I was able to strict press most of them. Towards the end, I needed to start push pressing. And one of my other goals is to get bigger legs. I always see that my legs are much smaller than the good competitors, especially at the national level. So I decided while it's convenient and I have the axle right here in front of me that I'm also going to superset some lunges with this. So I do this for 5 rounds and probably about 20 minutes total time. So after this, I'm going right into a shoulder circuit. Chose a little bit too heavy of a press at this point because my shoulders are pretty fatigued. So I just have 135 pounds here, but it feels like a lot more. I'm doing pin presses with the bar at about nose level. And then I actually superset dips, lateral raises, and face pulls with this. So as I said, I actually finished that with dips, lateral raises, and face pulls. I just didn't show that part. I will show it here soon. I had moved down to 35s after realizing that the 45s were too heavy and tried the 35s and realized that was still too heavy at this point. So I put on 25s. So this circuit does not need a lot of weight to do its job, especially after you've done some heavy pressing. So I am setting up for a Z press here, which is from the seated position with no back support. So it takes an extra level of stability, but also takes your legs out of the picture. So for the last round of this, as I do this circuit for 3 rounds, is just a standing press now. I just like to make it a little different every time, so I'm hitting the shoulders just a little bit differently. Again, I plan on taking this for a lot more than 10 reps. But my shoulders were so finished at this point that 10 reps was good enough. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. So here you're seeing how I supersetted the other exercises, like I was talking about the dips. I'm not getting really good depth on here, and ideally I would use dip bars to do this. But I also do 100 dips every single day on dip bars. So this is just kind of like an extra tricep workout at this point. The lateral raises, I love doing this and hate it as well. I start with the weight and do as many reps as possible with it. It may look like I'm exaggerating how hard this is, but I'm really not. My shoulders are just completely pumped and fried by this point. But you can always squeak out a little bit more, so I do drop sets. And I just work down the dumbbells until I have the smallest pair of dumbbells. And even that gets very difficult. So you actually see me reach failure multiple times on this. Now I don't do this every set. I only did the drop set on this last one because it was going to be the last shoulder exercise of the day. You can see I'm already giving up after 2 to 3 reps with the 10-pound dumbbells. The first couple reps are always tricky with the light ones because they make you think that you're going to be able to do a lot. And then suddenly you realize you can't. It always feels weird to reach failure with weights less than 10 pounds. Here I convinced myself to do a few more. I didn't actually reach failure, and then I couldn't actually pick my arms up at that point. I've seen some people take these as far as removing the weights altogether at the end and just moving their empty hands, because at that point your arms are heavy enough to get a stimulus. I'm not interested in taking them that far. Here I forget, and I think I'm done. Realize I still have to finish with face bowls. I'm kind of doing the same thing here, but I keep these light. They're more about recovery than anything else for me, but I do get a good stimulus in my rear delt from these. So I start with a weight that I can easily do 10 of, and then I just keep dropping down until I'm to the bottom of the weight here. I'm not actually going to complete failure, but I have taken face pulls much heavier and to actual failure. It's just not something I'm interested in doing in this workout. So if that all wasn't enough, I'm getting some sandbag conditioning in. I definitely overshot on this one. I was supposed to do what you're seeing for 10 rounds every minute on the minute. That did not happen. It's something I'll work up to. My conditioning is really down right now. Just the way that I've been training, I haven't had it as a focus for the last month or so. And I've had a lot of competitions where I've needed to relax, so I haven't been able to prioritize it. So I ended up doing this for like 3 rounds instead.